topic is becoming a language experimenter. So this topic actually sounds pretty compatible with the place here, Hsinchu. Hsinchu is well known for science part, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious about how many of you are science people? Science people.
Raise your hand.
Raise your hand if you are science people. And raise your hand if you are not science people. Okay, we still have science people and non-science people. And since I'm also a non-science people, so if you are a non-science people, don't worry about it. I won't talk about something about from the science perspective. Today, based on what I know, actually I know doing experiments, it's like some medical science people, they will try to inject medicine into the rats and to see whether the medicine is effective or not. And also some computer engineers, they do experiments on computers. So most of you do experiments on animals and computers. But for me, I do experiments on people. I do experiments on human beings. You didn't hear this wrong. I do experiments on people. I try to do language experiments on people and to see people's reaction. Some people, when they listen to your talk, they might frown a little bit. That means they disagree with your opinion. Sometimes they frown just because that was a thought-provoking question. They were thinking about it. And some people, they smile and made me feel like, wow, that's the sunshine. Some people, their eyes light up. They want to know more about the topic. So today, we will talk about experiments. First, let me make sure that we're on the same page. We're going to take a look at the definition of experiment. What does that mean, experiment? So the first question. Oh, experiment. What is an experiment? Can anyone tell me? Experiment is
Test.
About test.
Well, testing, try and error.
Try something, right? Try and error. Yeah. And so actually you can see the definition here is actually a procedure. And you have some procedures and help you to discover something. Let me give you one example. Newton. Do you know Newton?
Isaac Newton.
Newton. Yeah, Newton. One day he was sitting under the tree and the apple falling from the tree and knocked on his head. And he didn't say, "What the apple?" Instead, he said,
Why
"Oh,
me?"
why me?
Why me?
Yeah, why me? That's probably what you will say, right? But he said, "Why the apple? Why does the apple fall from the tree?" That was the question he asked himself. And then he designed some experiments, go through some procedures, and he actually discovered something amazing called gravity. I have no idea what is that, but we all know gravity because we all have to get to know Newton in our textbook. Even you hate science, even you love science, you all have to do gravity. So that's about experiments. So now let's move on to the next part. Today, I want to let you know about how to do language experiments. So we have 3 objectives of doing experiments. The first one, we have to know why should we do language experiments? And what language experiments can you do? And how can you do language experiments? So throughout the workshop, I hope you can think about the question. And then because I want to invite you to do your own language experiments. Now let's take a look at the first experiment we're going to do. Do you know signature? The word. Sign your name, right? On the document or on the file. Do you know another meaning of signature?
It's your style.
Your style. Yeah, good. So when you go to the restaurant, people might ask you, what's the signature at this restaurant? Yeah, something special. The feature of the featured food in this restaurant. And actually, Superman, you all know Superman, right? Superman has a letter S right over here. It's not about superpower because you won't have a superpower on your chest. Otherwise, boom, 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 right? So actually, that is about the signature. That's the signature of Superman. So now, I'm going to do one experiment. So can we move on to the next slide? So let's take a look at the definition. Signature. What does that mean? That means a distinctive characteristic by which someone or something can be identified. So you can immediately identify some characteristic that people have, and you will know that's your signature. For example, Superman, the letter S. So we're going to do the first experiment. So can you try to scan a QR code? And first, before we do any language experiment, we have to use Google definition. So please help me to find out the Google definition. Okay, everyone just scan it.
Can't.
Can't, really?
I can.
I can.
You can. Okay, maybe you just type Google USA, and then you can type any word plus definition. You will find out the English definition. So now we are going to move on to the next step. So now I want to invite someone who's pretty brave, courageous. Maybe not he, maybe he or she, and you are willing to come here. And I'm gonna use Google definition to tell you about your destiny. So who wants to come here?
Male or female?
Anyone. If you are brave enough. Come on. Do we have a warrior here?
Me.
Me. Okay.
Now
now,
the signature.
Can you tell me? You know, as a human being, sometimes people might use some words to describe you. For example, some people might use enthusiasm, critical, or even motivation to describe me. And so people might use some words to describe you. Do you remember any keyword? One could be one adjective or noun.
Contagious.
Passion. Okay, so can everyone check out the Google definition? What does that mean, passion?
Passion.
So I'm going to check out that. Yeah, you can stay here because I'm going to ask you more questions. Passion.
Patient or patient?
Passion.
P-A-S-S-I-O.
P-A, yeah. So everyone just check out the definition, passion.
Powerful or compelling emotional feeling.
Okay, so
Intense desire.
Strong sexual.
barely controllable emotion. So you barely can control your emotion. Sometimes you feel you're full of emotions. So can you tell me when was the last time you were full of emotions and you just couldn't control it?
Me?
Yeah. Strong emotion that you couldn't hold it back.
Last moment, when I be here, I feel fully impatient.
Why?
I'm quite curious about what is going to next.
You were curious about what was that?
Yeah. What is going to do next?
What was going to do next?
Yeah.
What do you mean? What was that?
I'm stay here, and I'm your assistant, so I don't know what is going on. So.
A new citizen. What do you mean a new citizen? I mean you moved to Hsinchu.
No, I mean here,
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
I'm fully passionate. Yes.
You're passionate because you cannot hold back your emotion.
Yeah, I don't like things very stable and I can control everything. So I need something surprise. I need
Yeah,
something.
you need some surprise.
Yes.
You need something
So-
powerful.
So can you remember anything that's surprising? Yeah.
Oh, because you kill me.
I killed you, so that was a surprise. Okay, maybe it doesn't work well. But you can see actually she just lost her emotion because she was a little bit nervous because she didn't think about that I will come today, right? Maybe so. And I remember actually your red just went red.
Yes.
Because of someone, right? Someone said something. Did you still remember what they just said? Jennifer.
Did you answer your question? I said yes. I answered my
Yeah,
question.
you answer your question. So all your speech actually you reach the conclusion at the last moment. So you just told people. So actually sometimes you can see she actually couldn't control her emotion, and that could be good. But passion. Another one is about intense desire and enthusiasm for something. So, do you have any enthusiasm for something? For what?
Toastmasters.
For Toastmasters. So you can see she visits here every week, probably, right?
Founded this club.
Oh,
Single-handedly.
yeah. Because what? You know what? She gave up our club. And she just abandoned our club. I have never seen her.
She stole
in Taipei.
members from my club. No, that's not true. That's not true. I'm just joking.
Passionate about Toastmasters. So why are you so passionate about Toastmasters?
There are many people have different stories, and they are very interesting compared with my life. So
What?
I can learn something from there.
Yeah, so you can learn something from them. So you want to pass on your passion.
Yes.
So that's the reason you
Attract
come
more
to.
person come here, like a Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel, because a handsome guy.
Because he founded a CCU club too.
CCU club.
Yeah,
Oh,
charter.
so you actually attract more passionate people to come here to join.
That's actually true.
That's actually true.
One of the reasons why I rejoined Toastmaster after so many years is I see Naomi and I see, hey, maybe I got something to share as well.
Okay, so let's give her a big round of applause.
Yeah, that's Naomi's signature.
Signature of Naomi, passion. And today, yeah, thank you. So when you go back home, you actually can do this experiment. When people tell you you are creative, check out what does that mean creative, and it will tell you the destiny of your life. So Google definition is actually crazy. It's just like a fortune teller. It will tell you something. You know, people tell me you're creative, you are innovative. I said, what does that mean? They didn't tell me. And then once I check out the definition, I can make interpretation on that. So I would like to invite you to go back home and check out the definition, the signature that you have. So that's the first experiment. So before we do any language experiment, we have to use Google definition. Know the definition first, and then we do other things. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So another question, what are language elements? What are language elements? In this room, here is full of the language, right? It's full of the elements. Energetic. Why energetic?
Because we are young. We are not old.
Oh, we are not old. So when you use the language, you should use with energy. That could be one of the things. Okay, so here I provide a circle. And you can see the first one is melody. Let's take a look at what does that mean, melody. So I'm going to introduce a method called echo method. And then here's the sentence. You can read it to your neighbor. Now, read it.
The definition of love is preparation meeting the moments of opportunities.
Okay, so you probably can identify the way you read it, right? So now I'm going to introduce what is echo method. Echo method actually has 3 steps. The first one is listen carefully. And the second step is echo. So you have to, does anyone know echo? Yeah, for example, if you yell just like a wolf. Okay, so many wolves here.
I can't help. It's his passion.
If you yell like a wolf, after a few seconds, you might hear the sound. The sound is coming back. That's an echo. So an echo can actually apply to the way we do the language experiments. So now, I'm going to do, so we have listen. First, you have to listen carefully. And echo, when you echo, it takes time. Give yourself 5 seconds. And then speak out. So listen, echo, and repeat. Okay, so echo, it needs 5 seconds. So now I'm going to read this sentence, and you are going to listen. And after 5 minutes, I will count the number. And then you will just speak out. Mimic the way I say. The definition of luck is preparation meeting the moment of opportunities.
The definition of love is
Echo, right? Say it.
I don't remember any.
Okay. You know, actually, normally we would just say the definition of log is preparation meeting moments of opportunities. But people listen to each word after word, and we have to combine all the words to form the meaning. But Oprah actually said this sentence in this way. The definition of luck is preparation meeting the moment of opportunities. So, you know the definition of luck. Okay, I want to know the definition of luck. First is preparation. Preparation comes first. And meeting the moment. What are the moments? Moments of opportunities. Actually, if you try to do language experiments on the melody, you can actually enhance your audience or listeners' comprehension. They can immediately understand what you're talking about, not just say it in a rush way. The definition of luck is preparation meeting the moments of opportunities. You're throwing a lot of words at people, and then they have to process that. So the next one. So this part is about melody. Now we are going to move on to the meaning making. So what does that mean, meaning making? So you can see there are two types of, you can find definition by two ways. One is Google definition. One is Google translation. How many of you use Google translation? Raise your hand.
Almost every day.
Okay, almost every day. How many of you use Google definition? 1, 2, okay, 3. Good, great. So you use Google translation. You know why Google provides Google translation in Taiwan? Because when you search for, the meaning about English words, you will only find, the first thing you see will see Google translation. Because Google has big data. They know how we learn English in Taiwan. Our English education, think about, when you study at schools, teacher teach you perspective, 观点. You have perspective, 观点. If I ask you, 观点, can you tell me in a 白话文 way? 观点到底是什么? Can anyone tell me 中文? What does that mean, 观点? 看事情的想法，有人说想法，角度，哇，你们这些都很精准，角度，大部分人都会说想法，那我就会接下来问 ，What's the difference between ideas and perspective? The same, right? And actually, when you check out the definition, you will know perspective is a way of thinking based on your personal experience or who you are. So your personality and the experience you have will help you to form your unique perspective. But ideas, you can have some crazy ideas, right? One day maybe you want to be naked, and then you want to be famous. That can be an idea. But perspective, based on your personality, I think most people are not that crazy. And also your experience, you know there's a law right there. So you won't do that. So that's the difference. So before we do any experiment, if you want to know the meaning, we have to check out Google definition. 3 people, they have checked out the Google definition. So the rest of you should try Google definition, not just Google translation. Otherwise, you will be a translator. You are more professional than a translator and interpreter because you multitask. You try to think in Chinese and then translate into English. Okay, next part. So next one will be meaning making. How can we do meaning making? So now we have to take a look at the language expression. So now let's take a look at the definition of the expression. What does that mean? Expression means the process of making known one's thoughts or feelings. So the first level, you let people know your thoughts, what you are thinking. That's the first level. And let's take a look. If you do first level, if you reach the first level, you are a skeleton. You tell people a statement. You tell people one sentence you believe. Hero journey is important. And then you tell people why it's important. Because hero actually just experience up and down in life. And that's the hero journey. Pure reasoning. You just tell people the reasons. So you are kind of like a skeleton. And you don't have flesh. You don't have blood. Flowing in your vein and into your heart. So you are doing reasoning only. You will look like a skeleton. And how can you make yourself look more like a human being? You need to have rational expression. Do reasoning, yeah, of course, if you have, the statement is actually just one sentence. For example, for me, I would say talking could be a way of learning. And then the rational expression will be because when I was a kid, I got a lot of punishment from my teachers, school teachers. I hated all of them because they punished me, not just gave me some mental or physical punishment. And actually, the sensational expression, you actually will provide something surprise, interest, or excitement to make people feel excited about what you just say. For example, I would say, at that time, I was sitting behind the desk as a third grader, and I asked myself, why teacher talk all the time? And teacher talk was pretty boring. But the teachers, do you notice that teachers practice their talk all the time? So they are all good speakers. But you don't have any thinking ability. They shut down my thinking ability. They shut down my speaking ability. They shut down my confidence. I lost everything. And they got everything. So that's the reason I think talking could be a way of learning. Because before you speak, you have to think about something. So the next one. So if you can do meaning making, actually you can make your expression from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional. Just like a virtual reality, VR experience. You can tell people when. For example, you see the prompter right here. There's a camera. That will tell you the next line, the next word you're going to say. And then actually, how can you have a prompter behind you, in front of you? You can do 5W1H. Yeah, next. So you ask yourself, when? When was the time? I mean, when I was a third grade student. And then, what did I do? And what did my teacher do? And how did I feel? Actually, you make people feel you have more feelings and more emotions about what you say. Okay, next one. So now we're going to try this. Does anyone know what is the meaning of food for thought? The food for thought. 值得深思的意思. Let's take a look at the definition. Food for thought is actually something that's serious and that warrants like a serious consideration. So, for example, food for thought. I know most of you have food for mouth, right? You are foodie. You enjoy eating good food. And you know, I hate buffet. How many of you love eating buffet? Raise your hand if you love buffet.
Long time ago.
Okay, good. For those people, you know, I'm gonna provide you another perspective. Eating buffet is like all you can eat, but you don't remember what you just ate. So after eating buffet, every time I didn't remember anything I just ate. Last week I went to Jinhua, actually buffet, and I went there. I see the chef actually was slicing the long fish, and then he put that fish body on the ice heel, and that was something that was the only thing I remembered. And other food I didn't remember that, but I enjoyed seeing. Wow, that's a show. That was a big show. Slice the fish and then put a lot of bodies together, and that was amazing. So I encourage you to have food for thought. That means when you have food for thought, not for mouth, you actually exercise your brain. You think about some question, and I might ask myself some question. What things can be food for thought? For example, would you read a book? That's the reason I like to go to the athletes and then read a book, and then you might have some sentences that strike you, and then that might be food for thought. Okay, next part. So the last part will be the modify. You have to modify the language you use. And how can we modify the language? Yeah. How can we modify the language? So you can integrate some elements: creativity, humor, sensation, and tone. So now let me give you one example. That was the experiment I did, at school, in front of professors, in front of one professor. And before that, I knew actually that professor tend to fall asleep during student presentation. He was nodding all the time. And I set a goal. The objective of my experiment was to make him awake. That was the only goal. And so that class actually was about writing, academic writing. So we learned some models, like if you were a graduate student, you know, introduction, methodology, results, and discussion. And that's boring. But teacher wanted us to talk about what you just have learned during the class. And I thought about models. And I thought of the melody, models. So I actually see some mental image. Models, like top models, they are attractive. And then models in academic writing, it's actually like some structures, some frameworks that will help you to organize your thoughts. And so you can see the connection between them. So I started my presentation in this way. We all know models in real life. Models in real life. And we also have models in academic writing. So what are similarities between models in real life and models in academic writing? Let's take a look. Since they have eye-catching opening, you see the top model, eye-catching opening, eye-catching appearance, and they have slim figure, no beer belly, and they have cleavage, highlights. And let's take a look about academic writing. Actually, if you can have models, your introduction will be eye-catching. Readers want to read more about your writing. And about the body. In body, actually, each word serves a purpose. Each sentence serves a purpose. So no redundant sentences in your writing. And so that's they have shared some similarities. That's the reason I try to draw the connection between them. And then I thought like my classmates or my professor might wonder, like who was the model I like? And I say, that was the model I like, spring model. And then I explain the reason why later. And you know, since I mentioned that I like to do experiments on people, so that day I did experiments on my professor. And you know, he was like a nutty set. He was falling asleep. And then she saw the model. And then she just stood up like this. And then he took some photos. And I noticed because he didn't fall asleep. At least during my presentation. Okay, so that's about the modify. So last but not least, I'm going to leave you 3 things to take away. Next one. So here, I want to start to use the Google definition. And you know the language elements, and you can do experiments on them. And also language expression. Most of people, we talk about our thoughts. But if we can talk about our feelings, that would be more wonderful. And so the last question I'm going to leave you will be, what is the essence of language experiments? The essence of language experiments is I want you to think about the question. I'm going to leave this question for you. And for me, it's to make people smile, make people laugh, to entertain it. And then I want to make people fully understand and make people always remember what you just say. Because what you say will actually maybe change the way they think about something. And they might take some actions for something. So what's yours? I hope to know more about your language experiments. So the next one. So for me, I want to, doing language experiments, can be encapsulated in one quote. To experiment, or not to experiment? That is the question. Can we say it together? To experiment, or not to experiment? That is the question. So today, you can start to do some experiments. And if you want to let me know what language experiments you do, you can go to this page, Speaking Renaissance, because I'm going to do some YouTube channel to talk about how can you do language experiments by storytelling or by improving your speaking. And then this place probably will help you to revolutionize the way that you see the language, you feel the language. So I hope you will do some experiments right after this workshop. Okay, that's all for today.